Welcome to the church basement. I'm Garrett, and today I want to talk to you about two words you probably misunderstood. If not. You're probably familiar with the story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These three Hebrew men are brought before the king of Babylon and commanded to worship a giant golden idol. Bow down and worship, they are told, or else you will be thrown into the fiery furnace. These men courageously respond, even if God does not deliver us, we still won't bow down to the idol. It's a great example of someone not knowing if God would deliver them, and still fearlessly accepting the possibility of death. Except, that's not what actually happened. Let's take another look at the text. The scripture in question is from Daniel 3. The king orders the three men to worship the golden image, or be thrown into the fire. And in verse 16, we read that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered and said to the king, O Nebuchadnezzar, we have no need to answer you in this matter. If that is the case, our God whom we serve is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us from your hand, O king. But if not, let it be known to you, O king, that we do not serve your gods, nor will we worship the golden image which you have set up. So the question is, what does if not refer to? Well, grammatically, it would be the if statement the men made in the previous sentence. They're saying, if that is the case, God will deliver us. But if that is not the case, we will not bow down. So what is the case? We have to go back another verse to Nebuchadnezzar's threat. It turns out the king had made an if not statement of his own. In verse 15, he told them, if you fall down and worship the golden image, we're good. But if not, you'll be cast into the fire. Then the three men respond by saying, if that is the case, if you throw us in the fire, God is able and willing to deliver us. But if not, if you don't throw us in, we still won't worship. These men weren't expressing uncertainty to God's willingness to save. No, they were expressing indifference to the king's threat. If he threw them in, God would deliver. If he didn't throw them in, they still wouldn't worship the idol. The king didn't have any power over them, which is exactly what we read in verse 27. The king's counselors saw these men on whose bodies the fire had no power. There was nothing the king could do to turn these men because they were under the protection of God. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that God would deliver them from danger. And if you think about it, it doesn't even make sense to read this as uncertainty about God's willingness to save. For one, these three Hebrew men had just declared that God was both able and willing to deliver them in the previous verse. Our God is able to deliver us, and he will deliver us from your hand. They literally just said that God would deliver them. It doesn't make sense for them to immediately backtrack and say, but actually, maybe he won't. No, they knew that he would deliver, which is why they had no need to answer you in this matter. It was a done deal for them. God was both able and willing to save. And that's what we're talking about, right? God's ability to save versus God's willingness to save. I'd imagine every Christian watching this video knows that God is able to save. The question is he willing? That was Nebuchadnezzar's question too. He tells them, if you do not worship, you shall be cast immediately into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. And who is the God who will deliver you from my hands? The king is asking the same question. Is God willing? So with that in mind, it doesn't make any sense for Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego to then say, well, our God is able to save us, but who knows if he's willing? No, they confidently declare, who is the God who will deliver? The God we serve is the God who will deliver. This is the God who promised in Psalm 50, call upon me in the day of trouble, and I will deliver you. The God who declared in Psalm 91, I will be with him in trouble, and I will deliver him and honor him. The God who delivered David from Goliath, the God who delivered Hezekiah from Sennacherib, the God who would very soon deliver Daniel from King Darius. Deliverance is what he does. Victory is in his DNA. Salvation is his name. Literally. Jesus in Hebrew is the word Yeshua, which literally means salvation. Of course God is willing to save those who call upon his name. Of course he showed up in the fiery furnace with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Of course the fire and the smoke and the heat and the threats had no power over them. They knew who their God was and they put their faith entirely in him. And that's exactly what we read in the only New Testament recounting of this story. Hebrews 11 is sometimes called the Hall of Faith. It's all about people who receive from God because they place their faith in him, because they had unwavering confidence in him. We read that Noah was saved from the flood by faith, that Moses and the Israelites were saved from Egypt by faith, that Joshua took the promised land by faith. We're told that Gideon and Samson and David were all delivered by faith. The list of men and women who are supernaturally delivered by faith goes on and on and on. And then the list ends with those who stopped the mouths of lions and quenched the violence of fire. Who's that talking about? Daniel and his 3 friends, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They were supernaturally delivered from lions and furnaces and kings and death. Why? Because of their faith. Because they were confident in the things not seen. Because they knew who their God was, and they knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that he was both able and willing to deliver them from whatever threat would come their way. And we too serve that same God, so we should have the same confidence in his ability and willingness to save. Those same promises of deliverance belong to you. So don't question his willingness to save. Don't doubt it even for a second. Stand firm in the faith, just as Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego did. The devil has no power over you. Have a great week, and remember, you're greater than you realize. My baby's crying, so I gotta go, but click the button to subscribe.